When President Trump spoke with President Putin a little over a week ago, the Russians said they were going to come up with what they call a memorandum. It's what I call a term sheet. What a term sheet means is, okay, this is how we get to peace. We've got that from the Ukrainian side. We need to get that from the Russian side. And then what you do is you meld them together. You put them together and say, okay, what does this look like? What is not acceptable? What's acceptable? Where can you go to bring it together? And once we do that, once we get their term sheet or memorandum, then we'll put it together, and then there's going to be another meeting, and we believe it'll be probably in Geneva. We would like to have had it in the Vatican, and we were pretty set to do something like that, but the Russians didn't want to go there, to the Vatican. So I think Geneva may be the next stop, and then you eventually go to somewhere where you get all three major leaders of all the parties. You get the President Putin, President Zelensky together and hammer this thing out and come to some type of signed document that ends this war.
This is my video update on this Wednesday afternoon, May the 28th, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Trump's post on Truth Social. A post that has everyone talking. Here's what Trump posted. What Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. And really bad is in all caps. So Putin is playing with fire, and if it wasn't for Trump, Putin would be in big trouble. Good thing Trump is around to save Putin. Good thing Trump is there to save Putin. All right, so why did Trump post this? Why did he post this? My opinion as to why he posted such nonsense, and I believe that even Trump must realize that what he posted was nonsense. I hope that he realizes that what he posted was nonsense, because I don't think anyone in the world, with the exception of maybe Keith Kellogg and Piers Morgan, would take this post from Trump seriously. It's a ridiculous post. It's an absolutely ridiculous post. But Trump posted this, in my opinion, in order to get some space, to buy some time and space from the pressure of the neocons. That's why I think he posted it. He's getting a lot of pressure to place sanctions on Russia, something he does not want to do. And now he has the added pressure of green lighting long-range missile strikes into Russia. Mertz's statement with the Taurus missiles and all of that stuff, which was directed at Trump. It was Mertz telling Trump that it's time to launch Taurus missiles into the Russian Federation, and I need the U.S.'s consent. I need the U.S.'s green light to do that. That was the purpose of what Mertz said yesterday, even though he's walked a lot of it back. I mean, he has walked a lot of it back, and Politico even had an article today talking about how German politicians are either confused or just upset with Mertz. The hardliners, the hawks in Germany, are very upset with Mertz because they want Mertz to escalate all the way to World War III. And the other politicians in Germany are just confused with Mertz's messaging, because he said that it's time to hit Russia's hinterland. And 5-10 minutes later, he pretty much walked the whole thing back and admitted that this was a policy that first came about under Biden. Anyway, a lot of pressure on Trump and his administration to escalate with Russia. Trump does not want to, at least does not want to place sanctions on Russia. I believe he doesn't want to escalate with Russia, even though the United States continues to be a part of this conflict, especially with the money that Biden allocated to the Zelensky regime, and the weapons drawdown, which continues, as well as Starlink and the intel and the satellites, all of that stuff. The U.S. is still a part of this conflict, a very active part of this conflict. But if there's one thing that's certain, it's that Trump does not want to place sanctions on Russia. And Politico, they put out an article today with the title, "Trump is losing patience with Putin, but unsure of his next move. Lawmakers see an opening for more sanctions on Russia, but the president is undecided." So he's trying to buy time and space. That's what he's trying to do, especially when it comes to sanctions. So he puts out this very aggressive, belligerent, ridiculous post on Truth, which people like Graham and Kellogg are going to absolutely eat up. They're going to love this post. The Europeans are going to love this post. But it's a ridiculous post. It really is a ridiculous post on Truth Social. Very, very laughable, the message in this post, to believe that it's Trump that is saving the Russian president. It's crazy, man. It's comical. It's comical. But there will be the neocons that are going to absolutely believe this. And that's who it's addressed to, the neocons and the media, the smartest people in the world, the media and the neocons. That's who this post is addressed to. So sooner or later, Trump's going to have to make a decision. He is going to absolutely have to make a decision on Project Ukraine. In about a month to 3 months, the $65 billion from the Biden administration and the weapons drawdown is going to come to an end. And Trump is going to have to decide, what is he going to do about Project Ukraine? No more flip-flopping. No more Putin's an all right guy one day, and then Putin is crazy the next day. No more of this stuff. It's going to have to come to an end. And it's going to have to come to an end in the next month to 2, maybe 3 months. Trump's going to either have to go to Congress once all the money runs out from the Biden administration and the weapons drawdown comes to an end. He's going to either have to go to Congress and ask for another 30 to 60 billion. He's going to need a lot of money. Ukraine needs a lot of money. We're not talking about 1 or 2 billion. The United States is going to have to give the Elensky regime another 30 plus billion, because we're talking about keeping the entirety of Ukraine afloat. This is just not about weapons. We're talking about paying Elensky's salary, his administration, parliament members' salaries, firefighters, policemen, teachers, everything. All of Ukraine is being paid for by the United States of America, with a little bit from the Europeans. So that's one decision, that's one option that Trump has, which will anger, boy will it anger, his base. The neocons and the Europeans and Elensky, they'll be super happy. the money that's going to flow, they will be super happy. But boy, will Trump's base be absolutely furious. And Trump is going to go down with Ukraine. His presidency goes down with Ukraine, which is going to be defeated by the Russian Federation. So he'll be the president that went down with Project Ukraine. The other thing that he could do is he could agree to sanctions. Maybe he doesn't go to Congress and ask for money, but he agrees to sanctions. Maybe he agrees to long-range missile strikes. But the problem with that is, if he were to agree to sanctions, He doesn't even have to agree to the 500% bone-crushing sanctions and any sanctions. If he agrees to sanction Russia and or agrees to long-range missile strikes, Taurus missile strikes into Russia, the problem there is that once he agrees to those things, then he's going to be pulled into Project Ukraine. He's going to be pulled even deeper into Project Ukraine, and the pressure is going to continue to provide money and weapons. That's the problem. There's no middle ground here. If he says, okay, Lindsay, I'll place sanctions on Russia, or okay, Mertz, BlackRock Mertz, I'll green light Taurus missile strikes into Russia. The minute he says that, they're going to come back at Trump the next day and they're going to say, okay, money and weapons now. Money and weapons. We want 30 billion, we want 50 billion to go to Zelensky. It's never going to end. So he can make those decisions. He can take that path, but eventually he's going to have to go to Congress, and he's going to have to request that big payday for Zelensky. And that's going to look so embarrassing. My God. Can you imagine how embarrassing that's going to be for President Trump to hand over 30 or 50 billion to Elensky? Man, that is going to be embarrassing. But that's his situation right now. The other thing he can do, the other path that he can take, is that he can walk away. That's the other path that he can take. Is it too late to walk away? I don't think it's too late to walk away. I think he could still walk away. I think walking away from Project Ukraine now, it's going to cost him political capital. The neocons are going to go after him. The collective West media is going to go after him. They'll blame Ukraine on him as well. They'll blame the defeat of Ukraine on him as well. But if he does it now, he still has, look, we still haven't gotten to midterms. He still has control of the government. He still does have the political capital to spend. He still has strong support in his base. I think he could weather the storm if he walks away from Project Ukraine now. It would have been better if he did it on January 21st. That would have been a very, very clean break. New administration, we're doing things differently. Biden's war, I don't want any part of this as I'm about to enter office. See you later, we're Audi 5000. That was simple. Now it's a little bit more complicated, and he's going to get a little bit more heat from the neocons and from the mainstream media and all of these guys, the globalists. But in a couple of weeks, the news cycle changes, and he'll be okay. He'll be able to weather the storm that would come his way if he walked away from Project Ukraine. That's his best option. When you look at things, when you step back and look at things rationally, pragmatically, his best option is to walk away. And he can do it in a way where he says, I'm walking away, but I'll allow the European Union to buy weapons from the United States. So he can package it like that. He can do something along those lines. So that's what I think is going on with this Trump post. Medvedev replied to Trump, and he said, regarding Trump's words about Putin playing with fire and really bad things happening to Russia, I only know of one really bad thing, World War III. I hope Trump understands this. Yeah, I agree. I hope Trump understands this. If he starts going the route of give money, Congress, give money to Elensky, Congress, I want to place sanctions on Russia. Okay, Congress, let's place sanctions on Russia. Or Mertz, go ahead and fire Taurus missiles into the Russian Federation. If he goes that route, then we could be heading towards World War III. There are military officials, I believe ex-military officials, who are going on Russian media, on Russian TV shows, news talk shows, and they're openly saying that if a Taurus missile is fired into the Russian Federation, then Putin should fire Oreshniks at Taurus manufacturing facilities, which would mean Oreshniks, I guess, at Rheinmetall. Is Rheinmetall the company that manufactures Taurus? I think it is. But anyway, they're saying if Taurus missiles are fired into Russia, then it's time to break out the hazelnut and fire it into Germany. I don't think Russia would do that. I think Russia would use the hazelnut inside Ukraine, and that would be the response as well as a warning. That's what I think Russia would do if the Taurus is used. But it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's a dangerous situation if Trump goes the path of sanctions and long-range missile strikes. So that's Medvedev's response. Dugin posted on X, "We need to support Trump in spite of his nervous breakdown concerning Russia. Russia is only real friend of Trump and his America. All the rest are either foes or competitors or parasites. MAGA is in critical situation. It is attacked from all sides except ours." And Putin's advisor, Ushakov, he was asked to respond to Trump's playing with fire post. And Ushakov said that Trump says a lot of things, but he told Russian media that the Kremlin believes that Trump is not being properly informed about the realities of the conflict in Ukraine, especially the drone attacks. Yesterday, the 27th, Ukraine launched another 280 drones into Russia, including 42 or 44 drones into Moscow. But Trump says nothing about this. The collective West media says nothing about this. Nope. It was just Russia. Putin woke up one day and he said, let's send drones and Iskanders into Ukraine. They always fail to mention the 1,000 plus drones over the past month, including on May 9th, that were launched into the Russian Federation, and the 270 drones that were launched into Russia, including targeting Moscow just yesterday. But Trump is saying nothing. There was nothing about that in his Truth Social post. Lavrov was asked to comment about all of this, and he said, "I see Brussels trying to disrupt the negotiation process. They are resorting to unprecedented actions, statements, and appeals. European hawks understand that they do not have the strength to continue the war. They are mortally afraid that the U.S. will give up on them and say, 'You started this mess with Biden. Go ahead, overcome it.' President Trump has already said that this is not his war. He is interested in the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine continuing. This was their joint initiative with Putin. European leaders are trying to prevent this because if the war suddenly stops, they will end their political careers in disgrace." Yeah, Lavrov is 100% spot on. And the Europeans are working with who? With Keith Kellogg. They're working with Keith Kellogg. And I believe Rubio and also Lindsey Graham, and they're working with this side of the Trump administration, that part of the Trump White House, to not only keep the war going, but to further escalate and take us to World War III. I'm convinced that Mertz, Macron, Stammer, Ursula, Kaya Kallas, definitely, they want World War III with Russia. They believe that if they can escalate to a World War III situation, then the United States will come in, and the power, the might of the United States would either scare Russia, lead to some sort of regime change, or just defeat Russia militarily. I think the Europeans have actually bought into this fantasy. that if they can escalate to a World War III situation, then one way or another, Russia will be defeated or Putin will be removed or something like that. So speaking of Kellogg, he was on Fox News. Fox News loves to platform Keith Kellogg. They really love to platform Kellogg. This is the Trilogy Towers. 1 tower, 2 towers, and that's going to be the third. It's not going to be a tower, but that will be the 3rd building. Trilogy. Trilogy. The 3 buildings in Limassol, Cyprus, with the beach right over there. One of the nicer beaches in Limassol. So Kellogg, he was on Fox News, and what did Kellogg say to Fox News? Well, one of the things that Kellogg claimed in this interview is that Ukraine has submitted its plan for peace, for negotiations, the memorandum. You know, the memorandum that Putin and Trump agreed on. It was my understanding, going off the statements that the Kremlin made, as well as the United States, President Trump, that Russia would put a memorandum together, a draft memorandum, and Ukraine was going to work on a draft memorandum, and it would be presented to both, to Russia and to Ukraine. They would get a copy of the other's memorandum, and it would also go to the United States, and then they would look to move on to the next step. They would compare the 2 different proposals, and they would try to work to some sort of a compromise. That was my understanding of things. So Russia has been saying over the past couple of weeks that they're working on a draft memorandum. Lavrov said that once the POW exchange had been completed, then Russia will present its draft memorandum. And Ukraine was working on a draft memorandum. Well, Keith Kellogg goes on Fox News yesterday and he says that Ukraine has already presented their memorandum. He called it a term sheet, like a venture capital, a VC term sheet. That's how Kellogg described it. But he said Ukraine has already presented their plan and we're waiting on Russia now. Huh? What? When was this? When did Ukraine present their memorandum? When did Ukraine present their peace plan? Their roadmap, their timetable? When? What Kellogg is talking about is he's talking about his 22-point peace plan. That is what Kellogg is talking about. He's basically saying that his 22-point peace plan is the memorandum. That's what he's saying. Which would then mean that Kellogg and Ukraine, that Kellogg is drafting the policies for Ukraine. His peace plan is Ukraine's peace plan. And that 22-point peace plan, the freeze, the DMZ, all of that stuff, that's coming from the Ukraine side of things. So Kellogg is openly admitting that he's on Ukraine's side. Therefore, there's no way that you could say he's a mediator in any way, shape, or form. So that was an interesting. That was a shocking statement from Kellogg. I'm not surprised that he would come out and say that, but still. And then he's saying that we're waiting on Russia's memorandum. Where is it? He's saying, where's Russia's memorandum? Ukraine has already presented theirs. Where's Russia's? Actually, Kellogg also on X replied to Medvedev, to what Medvedev said, and he posted, "Stoking fears of World War III is an unfortunate, reckless comment by Medvedev, Russia, and unfitting of a world power. President Trump, POTUS, is working to stop this war and end the killing. We await receipt of the RU memorandum term sheet that you promised a week ago. Ceasefire now." Yeah, Kellogg has to go. He has to go ASAP. Does he even read what he's about to post? Maybe give it another read through, Kellogg, what you're about to post. Because for you to come out and say that what Medvedev posted is a reckless comment and unfitting of a world power. Really? A reckless comment? Really? Have you not been following Trump's Truth Social posts over the past 2 days where he called Putin crazy? And then he said that very bad things would be happening to Putin if it wasn't for me? I mean, what what exactly are you smoking, Kellogg, man? My man, what are you smoking? Oh my God, Kellogg. Yeah, he's got to go. He has got to go. He's doing a lot of damage to this entire process. He's doing a lot of damage to the Trump White House, and he's doing a lot of damage to this negotiation process. What else did Kellogg say? He also said that there's going to be a meeting between Ukraine and Russia in Geneva, with Trump possibly being there as well. Zelensky, Putin, and Trump in Geneva. Why would Russia agree to a meeting in Geneva? Why? Once again, you're talking about Europe, and you're talking about a location and a country that is not neutral. They're not neutral. Why would Russia go there? Not that Turkey is neutral, but at least Erdogan is bad in all directions, right? He's devious and he's screwing everybody on all sides. That's Erdogan. His cargo ship full of weapons got destroyed, going to Odessa. That's Erdogan. But on the flip side, Erdogan has resisted placing sanctions on Russia, even though he has had a lot of pressure to place sanctions, to close off the Black Sea, or to open the Black Sea to U.S. and British and French warships. He's resisted that as well. So with Erdogan, it's very much a mixed bag. But when it comes to Europe, the Vatican, Italy, Geneva, why would you agree? Why would Russia agree to negotiations in these locations? Why would Putin travel there? They tried to knock down his helicopter the other day in Kursk. Do you think that Putin would actually fly anywhere in Europe to meet with Elensky and Trump? Kellogg's dreaming, man. He is dreaming. So speaking of Elensky, he posted his Instagram TikTok message that he likes to put out there, saying that Ukraine needs $30 billion in weapons. They need a $30 billion arms plan. He also said that Ukraine is planning to launch deep strikes into Russia, hinting at some sort of a deal for the Taurus missiles, some sort of a green light for Taurus missile strikes into Russia. And what else? And that's it. That's what he said. Elensky pushes $30 billion arms plan. The problem is funding, not production. Elensky said Ukraine is looking... that's what he said. Okay, here's what he said. Ukraine is looking at frozen Russian assets as a possible funding source and plans to raise the issue at the Group of Seven summit in Canada next month. Why in God's name is Ukraine going to a G7 summit? I mean, maybe they could go to a G7 summit if it was in reverse land, if it was in opposite land, right? But why are they going to a G7 summit? Not that the countries that attend the G7 are the great countries of the great economies anymore. But still, why would he be invited to a G7? So at the G7, he's going to once again push for the Russian frozen assets. 30 billion from the Russian frozen assets handed over to the Elensky regime. That's another option, actually, that Trump could take. I didn't think about that. Trump might say Europeans can buy weapons from us, and we have no problem tapping into the 300 billion in frozen assets, but I'm not going to place sanctions on Russia, and I'm out of Project Ukraine. That's something that Trump might do. It's not going to help the collective West financial situation. It's going to completely damage and destroy the collective West financial situation, especially Europe. But it's another possibility that Trump might have. So that's Zelensky. The Financial Times, they are reporting that the coalition of the willing, France and the UK, entering Ukraine, the reassurance forces or the peacekeeping forces, whatever you want to call them, that thing is over. Financial Times, citing their sources, claim that the United States is never going to backstop European troops in Ukraine, and without the U.S. backstop, there is zero possibility of French or British soldiers ever entering Ukraine. So that's the story from the Financial Times. Let's get to some other news. BlackRock Mertz, he is threatening Hungary and Slovakia, saying that if they continue to block policy and money and weapons to the Elensky regime, then Germany is going to push to strip EU funding to these countries. Mertz said member states that violate the rule of law can be confronted with infringement proceedings. Mertz warned at the WDR Europa Forum in Berlin on Monday, there is always the option of withdrawing European funds from them. Fico responded to Mertz, saying that Slovakia is not a school child and will not be lectured, and Germany will not decide, Mertz will not decide Slovakia's foreign policy. Fico said Slovakia will not be bullied into changing its foreign policy. Prime Minister Fico has said, calling German threats to cut EU funding due to its stance on Russia aggressive and unacceptable. That Mertz, huh? He's one hell of a guy, that Mertz. You thought Olaf Scholz was bad. Now we've got BlackRock Mertz. He's turning out to be 1,000 times worse than Pirate Schultz. Trump is claiming victory over the EU in the tariff war. According to Politico, Trump claims victory over EU and 50% tariff standoff. And Trump posted on Truth Social, I was extremely satisfied with the 50% tariff allotment of the European Union, especially since they were slow walking, to put it mildly, our negotiations with them. Remember, I am empowered to set a deal for trade into the United States if we are unable to make a deal or are treated unfairly. I have just been informed that the EU has called to quickly establish meeting dates. This is a positive event, and I hope that they will finally, like my same demand to China, open up the European nations for trade with the United States of America. They will both be very happy and successful if they do. Completely expected, this outcome with this tariff war, if you even want to call it a tariff war, between the United States and its vassal. That's what we're talking about. Not much of a war. The United States in negotiations with its vassal, the European Union, and its vassal states, the EU member states, all of them are vassals to the United States. This is the easiest negotiation in all of history. In all of history, this is the easiest negotiation. I can do this negotiation. I can do this negotiation with my eyes closed and both of my hands tied behind my back. I could do this negotiation. If Trump deputized me to negotiate on behalf of the United States of America, I could stroll into that room, sit across the table from Ursula, and I can negotiate whatever deal Trump empowered me to negotiate in the benefit and interests of the United States of America. Such an easy deal to put together. So yeah, Trump is claiming victory, as he should be. The EU has zero cards, zero leverage on the US. Absolutely zero. So what else is going on in the world? Georgescu. Did you guys catch Georgescu's statements from the other day? Oh man, I got sad when I listened to Georgescu's statement. He put out a video saying that he's leaving politics. And it didn't work out. Obviously, it didn't work out. And he's leaving politics. And this is a direct quote, this stage of the sovereigntist movement is over. The stage of sovereignty, the sovereigntist movement for Romania, Georgescu announced, is over. The European Union, the globalists, they got their way. They won. And Georgescu, he admitted defeat. It was a sad statement, man. Sad days for Romania. They did the same to Greece. They did the same to Cyprus. The European Union, they beat us down. Boy, did they beat down Cyprus and Greece with the whole austerity and going into the bank accounts and the austerity programs and the troika. Boy, did they beat us down hard. Yeah, now we're very docile. The Greeks are very, very docile. Not protesting anymore, not causing any problems. They go along with everything the EU tells them to do. Yeah, Ursula, we've got tools. So the New York Times, they're putting out an article. They put out an article claiming that their sources are saying that Israel is going to launch a strike against Iran, a smaller scale strike against Iran's nuclear facilities without the United States. Come on. Oh man, it's not working. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to read you what the New York Times is saying, because once again, you have the New York Times, the collective West media, going with sources that are familiar with. And I don't like it. They're using this a lot now, huh? They continue to go with sources that are familiar with, sources that are familiar with Trump's thinking, sources that are anonymous and have seen the briefing. It means nothing. When they come out with these types of statements, when these are their sources, their reporting is meaningless. Whatever it is, whether it's on Ukraine, whether it's on Iran, on Israel, on the border, it doesn't matter. Whenever they're going with anonymous sources that are familiar with this or that, their entire article to me is useless. It could be true as well. Maybe Trump is going to place sanctions on Russia, like the Wall Street Journal was claiming yesterday. In their article, the Wall Street Journal said in 1 week, Trump is going to place sanctions on Russia. Maybe that's true. But they said sources familiar with Trump's thinking. And once they say that, you can't trust their reporting. Anyway, in this article, the New York Times says, as Trump seeks Iran deal, Israel again raises possible strikes on nuclear sites. Prime Minister Netanyahu, wary of a diplomatic solution to curbing Iran's nuclear program, continues to press for military action that would upend Trump's push for a negotiated deal. As the Trump administration, this is the first paragraph, as the Trump administration tries to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has been threatening to upend the talks by striking Iran's main nuclear enrichment facilities, according to officials briefed on the situation. According to officials briefed on the situation, that could be anybody in D.C. That could be a think tank, that could be an NGO, it could be a White House official. Could be another journalist, a colleague of the New York Times reporters. Could be a European official. Anyway, the Netanyahu administration, they came out right away and said that the New York Times is reporting fake news. Right away, they came out and said this is fake news. Once again, I'm not saying this is not going to happen. Perhaps Israel does launch strikes into Iran without the United States. Perhaps Trump does place sanctions on Russia next week. All of this could happen, but I read articles like this with this type of sourcing, and I have doubts. So how we doing on time? Yeah, we got to wrap this video up. Boy, did I cover a lot of ground. Man, did I cover a lot of ground. Let's talk about Macron and the slap heard around the world. The shove heard around the world. It was like a two-handed shove from Brigitte. Brigitte Macron. Oh, we live in clown world, all right. So Lord Bibo brought up a really good point in this post on X. He said Macron complains that he had a rough time recently since the Russia propaganda is attacking him. First, the tissue cocaine story. Then Erdogan held his finger now slapped by Brigitte. And Lord Bibo has a video of Macron talking to the media about the slap or the shove. And basically Macron, he's telling the media that this is just being overhyped. They're making this out to be some sort of geopolitical catastrophe, he said, when it was just, playful banter, man. Flirting, playful banter. Two lovebirds releasing some pressure. And then he said it's Russian disinformation and it's right wing. Russia and right wing. Far right disinformation. Russia and the far right. He said that as well. But it's true. The last 2-3 weeks, when you think about it, has been very embarrassing for little Napoleon. Very, very embarrassing. He had the tissue gate, tissue gate on the train. He had Fingergate with Erdogan. And now he has Brigitte Slapgate, which is so embarrassing, man. So freaking embarrassing. His face when he got slapped and the door to the airplane opened, his face was just priceless, man. Oh, God, Macron, what a clown. So there's an image. This could be AI. I don't think it is, but there's a poster at a gym in France. I believe that's where this image comes from. And it's basically a promo poster for this gym, where I believe it says in French. I think in French this is saying if you're getting beaten by your wife, then it's time to work out, or you should sign up to this gym or something like that. He's being mocked and made fun of everywhere, Macron. Anyway, Latvia, one more clown world. Latvia is now pushing for the EU to ban all Russians from entering the European Union. Tourists. They want to ban all Russians, including tourists, from traveling to Europe. Well, to the EU. To Schengen is basically what Latvia is saying. They want a Schengen ban. EU state calls for Schengen ban on Russians. Latvia's foreign minister has cited security concerns amid rising visa approvals for Russian tourists. Latvian Foreign Minister Beba Breze has called on EU member states to stop issuing Schengen tourist visas to Russian citizens, claiming they pose a threat to the bloc's internal security. Since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022, the EU has fully suspended its visa facilitation agreement with Russia and imposed travel restrictions. Latvia, along with Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, Finland, and the Czech Republic, have banned tourist visas for Russian citizens. Norway, which shares a land border with Russia and is not an EU member state, has also closed its border for Russian tourists and other non-essential visitors. Latvia calls on EU countries to halt visa issuance for Russian citizens. Breze posted on X on Sunday. citing security concerns. The Chihuahuas, man. The Baltics, the Chihuahuas. Oh, why? Why are they in the European Union? Why, oh, why? Anyway, that's the final cloud world, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.